Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher, emperor. In the vast and turbulent sea of Roman history, where emperors rose and fell like waves crashing against stone, one name continues to echo with calm and dignity: Marcus Aurelius. He was not the loudest, the most ruthless, or even the most ambitious emperor, but he was perhaps the wisest. At the height of Rome's power, Marcus Aurelius was the one man who seemed to care more about doing right than being right. He was a philosopher king, a rare breed in any age, and his story is one of endurance, thought, and quiet strength in the face of chaos. While others ruled with ego and sword, he ruled with reason and a pen. A quiet beginning. Marcus was not born to power. Born in 121 AD in Rome, his full name was Marcus Annius Verus. First, he appointed Antoninus Pius as his heir, on the condition that Antoninus, in turn, adopt Marcus Aurelius and another boy named Lucius Verus. It was a strange arrangement, but it worked. Marcus was suddenly thrust into the world of politics, power, and imperial expectation. He came from a noble family with ties to the imperial court, but no one expected him to become emperor. Then, a mysterious plague, likely smallpox, swept through the empire, killing millions, including Lucius Verus, and just as that threat faded, Germanic tribes began pressing hard against Rome's northern frontier. He held the line at the Danube River, spending years in harsh military camps. And yet, even while surrounded by blood and battle, Marcus kept writing, penning thoughts about virtue, pain, anger, and patience in his worn journal. As a boy, he was serious and thoughtful, drawn more to books and study than to games or shows. The Emperor Hadrian noticed the young boy's discipline and intellect, and took a special interest in him. He read Epictetus, practiced meditation, and kept a private journal of reflections. Pain, loss, even death were part of nature. What mattered was how we responded. But while Lucius enjoyed feasts and spectacles, Marcus focused on governing with diligence and justice. He rarely smiled, but he was kind. He rarely punished, but he was firm. He hated flattery and luxury, preferring a simple wooden desk and a straw bed to marble palaces and silk robes. He did not believe happiness came from wealth or fame or pleasure, but from mastering yourself. These notes, never intended for publication, would later be known as Meditations, one of the most influential works of philosophy in human history. Hadrian arranged for Marcus to be adopted into the imperial family through a political chain of succession. Among them was Commodus, his only surviving son. Marcus loved his son deeply but failed to see his fatal flaws. He mourned, but he did not break. Suffered betrayal and political intrigue, it refused to be consumed by revenge. For all his wisdom, Marcus believed that family loyalty mattered more than the Senate's judgment. He hoped his teachings and example would shape Commodus into a worthy ruler. The philosopher king was Ganand in his place. A cruel, vain, and erratic ruler would soon plunge the empire into madness. A tragedy. When friends failed him or officials disappointed him, he simply noted, "Expecting the world to be fair is like expecting a lion not to roar because you a vegetarian." Among them, X stood out for his moral seriousness, his philosophical depth, and his stoic endurance in a world that constantly tested his soul. But he remained humble. It's the inner voice of a man who bore the weight of the world, yet still strove to live with integrity and clarity. His meditations are still read today, not just by scholars, but by soldiers, CEOs, students, seekers of wisdom around the world. As he rose in rank, Marcus continued to study philosophy, particularly Stoicism, a school of thought that emphasized reason, self-discipline, and accepting one's fate. Emperor of the known world. In 161 AD at age 40, Marcus Aurelius became emperor, sharing power with his adoptive brother, Lucius Verus. It was the first time Rome had joint emperors. From the very beginning, Marcus's reign was tested by fire. War broke out in the east against the Parthian Empire. He is studied not just as a Roman emperor, but as a timeless thinker. His words have guided leaders, writers, generals, even U.S. presidents like Bill Clinton, and thinkers like John Stuart Mill. Marcus didn't send generals. He went himself, to remind himself that no matter how high you rise, you are still just dust and bone. A man, a moment. He donned military gear, and led his armies through freezing forests, muddy plains, and brutal winters. Yet ironically, they have made him immortal. In one entry, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The Stoic soul, to understand Marcus Aurelius, is to understand Stoicism. Stoicism taught that everything outside our control, fortune, the opinions of others, should not disturb our inner peace. Marcus lived this philosophy every day. He lost several of his children to illness, including his beloved son Drusus. His Meditations is not a polished work. It's not meant to impress. It's raw, sometimes repetitive, deeply human. He reminded himself daily, do not waste time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one, a father, a philosopher. Despite his strength of mind, Marcus was still a man, and perhaps nowhere is this more tragically clear than in his role as a father. He had many children with his wife Faustina, but only a few survived. Breaking with tradition, Marcus appointed Commodus as emperor before his death. It was a decision that would haunt his legacy. They did not. When Marcus died in 180 AD, likely from the plague that had devastated the empire for decades, Rome mourned the loss of its last truly good emperor. The death of Marcus Aurelius is often marked by historians as the end of the Pax Romana, the long peace of Rome. The last of the 5 good emperors, Marcus Aurelius, is remembered as the last of the 5 good emperors, a title given by historian Edward Gibbon to a line of Roman rulers who governed with wisdom and restraint: Nerva, Trajan, Hadrian, Antoninus, Pius, and Marcus himself. Unlike the emperors that followed, who sought personal glory, pleasure, or power, these 5 lead with service and stability. While other rulers built grand monuments to themselves, Marcus Aurelius built a legacy of words. They are simple, honest, and deeply moving. Lines like, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Death smiles at us all. All we can do is smile back. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injustice." These are not the words of a man who sought immortality, a legacy that endures. Over 1,800 years after his death, Marcus Aurelius remains one of history's most admired figures. He was a man of contradictions, a warrior who hated war, a ruler who despised power, a philosopher in an age of brutality. And perhaps that is why he remains so compelling. He proved that, in the darkest times, it is still possible to lead with light. Marcus Aurelius never sought to be remembered. He did not write for fame. He wrote to keep himself strong, to stay true. And yet in doing so, he left behind something no marble statue could ever match. He left wisdom.